We
We are
on?
live, Dan. We are live. Make sure you don't say anything incriminating.
My glasses are a mess because I play tennis in my glasses, and I've gotten way better at tennis because I can see. You
Why
see,
have
that's
hold
helpful
on, whoa,
in
whoa, whoa, whoa,
sports.
whoa, whoa. Why have you not gone full Chris Sabo and gotten the rec specs?
Um, I don't know if I've found. I looked up rec specs.
Don't you have contact lenses?
No,
Really?
I tried them for 2 weeks and didn't like them. And I don't mind.
Whoa.
I don't mind the look of glasses. Some people find glasses to be cumbersome or annoying, and they don't like how they look with them. I think, especially, God, I'm running hot here. Am I not? Do I look like I'm
No, you
burning
look
up?
you look okay.
No, I don't want okay. I want transformative.
I thought I could have sworn that you had contacts and just
No,
made the
aesthetic
stylistic
decision?
decision.
No.
Yeah.
I don't mind the glasses, especially for this because we both have dark hair. We're both
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
good-looking
you look
white
great.
dudes,
I didn't know that
but
about you.
yeah. No, but I've been playing tennis and, basketball with glasses for some time. I got our friend Ben, they is at Vox. He got me a pair of, like, Oakley, but
Mm,
the stems broke or something, and so
okay.
I don't know. But here we are.
Here
Hey,
we are.
everybody. Hey, everybody. And welcome to the Brew A. My name is Dan. That is Ty. You know that already because you are beautiful, handsome, attractive human beings listening to this show who are extremely supportive of the show, emotionally supportive, physically supportive in some instances. That's not true.
I was gonna say, what does that mean?
We never know, Ty. We
What does
never know.
that mean? Okay.
Financially supportive, which is also very important because it
Yes.
allows the two of us to carve out a living making a show we love, doing what we love. We have a number of questions from you, mostly from Blessed Elua. Just, do we hire him or her to be like a full-time story producer? Do
A
we have dental
full-time question.
benefits available?
We do not have dental. A
Okay. Dang.
full-time sort of question asker type.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Okay.
that's that's fully true. Okay, should we get involved? Everything's good with you on your end? Your hair looks magnificent.
Thank you. I was in New Jersey
Mhm.
about half hour ago. So now I'm back here in the great state of PA.
Yep.
Trying to think if I have anything new. I don't think I do. No, keep telling your friends about the show. That really does help, especially in the off season. Like we've started to see the line kind of tilt up a little bit
Yep.
with respect to college football interest. It happens around this time every year, maybe a little bit early, but we're college football interest from pretty much this point forward. Give it like a week or two, but just general this time frame from this point forward, it starts to tilt up and to the right, and people start getting a little bit more interested in their teams. So I say all that only to preface it does help if you tell your friends if they're looking for a college football show. We are welcoming and we want more people
Great.
as part of our Verballer universe. So that is my
Are
spiel, Dan. Take
are
it
we
away.
on Discord? Like, did you post the link to this? I can
I did.
post it.
I did.
Okay. Well, then you're ahead of me. Okay. Um, ready to get some questions? I don't know
I'm
if that's
ready.
anything new. I discovered a super drag song that I liked on the way home. If you want to talk about sucked out, that's the name of the song from like
I
1996.
do not know anything about Super Drag.
Yeah, it's kind of a one-hit wonder from the mid 90s, but a good hit.
Well,
Ty, Mr. Pizza Coley.
Alpha.
Who are your favorite 3 to 5 beefy college football skill position players, past or current? And you can't use like a defensive tackle in at running back.
can't use Mount Cody. Can't do
That's
that.
beyond beef. That's impossible beef. That's not the real thing. I want intended offensive skill beef. Who
Well,
are who are your memorable beefy names this beef week?
Tim Tebow has to qualify. Tim Tebow was beefy.
There's a little bit of jiggle and fat to beef. And I almost feel, especially after watching that ESPN special featuring Rob Tebow, trainer to the stars, where he would have Tim Tebow throw logs and pull tow trucks. I don't think there was a lot of beef to Tim Tebow. I think
No?
he was granite.
All right. I mean, can we throw Jared Lorenzen in there?
Yes, absolutely.
Jared
That is high
Lorenzen,
marbling. Rest in peace.
RIP. Yep.
Jared Lorenzen, absolutely an offensive skill. Like, look, if you're talking about beefy forefathers or five fathers, as it were, which is a little extra, Ron Dane,
Yep. That was gonna be my
is
next one.
absolutely, and there's been a few beefy Wisconsin running backs, but he is the five father of beefiness. I would put David Boston in that granite category where he was maybe that's more NFL where he got extra beefy for a receiver.
He was extreme beef, yeah.
Do you remember Jeremy Liggins at Ole Miss?
Yes.
He was a high school quarterback, and he was used in a myriad ways, uh, for Ole Miss, and I would put him in that conversation. Um, I'm trying to think if there have been specific H-backs or tight ends, but the tight end has really leaned out over the years. The Gronkization of the
Yeah.
tight end position.
Baby Gronkification, sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Other beefy backs.
do we go back to, like, Jerome Bettis era,
It's
Notre
probably
Dame?
so that's it's probably too far because Jerome Bettis was not like he wasn't an outlier size-wise of the
No.
time. Like, there
That's the
were the
thing, right?
Tyrone Wheatleys, there were the bigger backs that were just sort of standard, and Ron Dane, I guess, is in that category, maybe a little bit after. But yeah, Bettis is certainly in the room.
Yeah, he's in the conversation. Wow.
Um,
David Boston's a good answer, although I don't know if he fully
no, he's more granite for sure, and
explored his
probably juiced
beefiness
up.
until
Yeah.
yeah, I was definitely juiced up. This is a good question.
Do you remember this is related, but not specifically an offensive skill player. Remember the LaRon Landry pictures when he was with, I think, Washington?
Washington, yeah.
And everybody's like, "No, trust me, these photographs are not doctored." That was a moment. That was a good moment on the sports internet. Other beefy running backs that I mean, because you're generally gonna go running back or quarterback who just have, like the hefty lefty, a little bit of heft to them. You know, we've had, like, thunder lightning situations, the memorable big backs at Oregon have been, like, Royce Freeman and LeGarrette Blount, but those are built solidly. Andre Williams had a moment as a power back. He goes for, like, 2,000-ish yards. Solidly built, though. Like,
Who was the
it's
dude from
tough.
Mississippi State? Josh Robinson?
Oh, bowling ball, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a quality of beefiness there.
There's a
Um,
there's a podcast I listen to called The Greatest of All Talk. It's a subscription, like a paid subscription podcast with, our friends Andrew Sharp and Ben Golliver, both college football fans, but it's an NBA show. And they have a term for when a player has a width advantage.
mhm.
Because everybody talks about, height and length of arms in the NBA, but when somebody has when they're built like a block up top, they call it acreage.
Acreage.
Acreage, like there's
Mhm.
a square footage to their upper body, and I'm sure that's common in college football, but I always appreciated that.
Yeah, I'm looking through a list here. It's a little disappointing that Nick Chubb didn't have more of a beef to him because that'd be a
No.
great name for
Yeah.
a beefy running back. But no, okay. Let's go
We
next
we I mean,
question.
we
Good question.
appreciate who is the Penn State kicker, by the way? We have to
Uh,
him. I know he had, body image issues and everything like that. I just appreciated that he was a kicker at a non-traditional size.
right, Joey Julius.
Yes,
Right.
and would lay the wood.
Absolutely. All right, next question.
All right,
Good
next
one.
question. I'm so happy you're here, Ty. I mixed up the football and not football question, so I'm gonna make sure. Okay. Somebody and I appreciate this, because you are specifically designed to answer this question. Somebody asked about a proper rival for Penn State, which we
Mm,
talked about a little bit with you feeling zero juice about the land grant trophy in Michigan
yep.
State.
Don't care about it.
And it was brought up that, like, why is there not just a very Ty Hildenbrandt specific matchup? Because Notre Dame has tensions with a couple of Big Ten schools, right?
Sure.
But they're nowhere like Notre Dame's always going to be the third most important game on Michigan's schedule, for instance. Like Michigan is not a prior or Notre Dame is not a priority for Michigan in the same way it may be for Notre Dame to me from afar. So why do we not have Penn State and Notre Dame if Notre Dame does not have a specific geographic rival and Penn State does not have a specific geographic rival?
Well, Penn State's specific geographic rival is Pitt, and they just don't play that much.
Right.
So that rivalry has kind of fell by the wayside.
That that
But
that should be a rotating year thing. 1 year Pitt, 1 year Notre Dame.
well, I'm fine with it. I mean, so Penn State Notre Dame, and I actually looked this up when I saw the question.
Yeah.
That series, they played 19 times. Notre Dame's won 9, Penn State's won 9, and there's been one
Incredible.
tie. There's been one tie. So it's, kind of down the middle. The last time they played, I believe that was in the Brady Quinn slash Jimmy Clausen
We were
era.
there. Didn't know
You're
it.
We didn't
We
know
were
it at
there.
the
Yeah.
time. I was at the game in '06 when Notre Dame and Brady Quinn killed them. 40, what is it? 41-17. That game wasn't even close. And then the following year, Penn State got its revenge when Clausen was, I
Yeah.
think, a freshman. They won by 21. So, I mean, that's a fun rivalry. I think everybody kind of considers Notre Dame a rival if they've got them on the schedule because, in general, most people hate Notre
Definitely.
Dame. If you
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
love Notre Dame, you hate them. So, I'd be fine with it personally to get more of the Notre Dame Penn State stuff going. That'd be a real hoot for those of us that live in
They
PA
recruit
and
against each other because they're
to
both
some extent.
recruiting PA and Ohio and the Midwest at large.
I
Um,
think I think Pitt's the better rival for Penn State. I think Penn
well,
State Pitt's a better rival. There's definitely a lot more animosity because of the PA connection. And
right.
there's always been this whole thing with Pitt, at least through the eyes of Penn State fans, Pitt trying to be Penn State. And then there's always been this thing from the Penn State side of looking down on Pitt. There is a word that starts with S that it's 4 letters long and it rhymes with Pitt
Yeah.
that folks in the Penn State world would say S on Pitt. And
Yeah.
that's sort of become a thing as well. So I think there's a lot more animosity there. I think that would be the better rival. But,
Yeah. I mean,
obviously,
especially since Pitt has surpassed Penn State.
well, whatever,
Ugh.
whatever.
Yeah.
But that to me seems like that would be a much more natural rival than the Michigan. Like I get that there's got to be some kind of rivalry within the Big Ten and that the land grant trophy is a thing and Michigan
Totally.
State, blah, blah, blah. I understand wanting to manufacture that. It just never has done much for me. I think I think Maryland would love to try and fashion themselves as Penn State's rival, but no one's buying that.
Well, Maryland needs to do its part to make
Well,
that
yeah, right.
a rivalry. Yeah,
Right.
I'm with you, especially since there was that initial bad blood and beef, as it were, with James Franklin and the Maryland program over recruiting and Penn State going in
Dominate
and
the
about
state and all, yeah, all
dominate the
that
state.
stuff.
Um, yeah, I'd be good with Notre Dame dropping Stanford. That doesn't do much for me. And doing some sort of Penn State situation, even if it's every other year, I think, especially, and I know you insist Pitt is the better rival, and I don't think you're necessarily wrong, but Penn State and Notre Dame are national programs. All due
Well,
respect to
sure.
Pitt, but
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. No,
brand
look,
of Penn State Notre Dame, I think would fly further in Amarillo and Fort Lauderdale and Scottsdale and Seattle. And so that to me, especially as we're positioning everything around the almighty TV dollar, it seems like a win-win for everybody. I don't
yeah,
know.
the problem with that, and it's a good idea. I'd love to see him play. The problem with that is
Yeah.
that there's not a whole lot of history. They played a
Oh,
lot in like
totally.
the mid to late '80s, and then they revived it a couple times. Most recently during the early aughts, I guess. But Penn State and Pitt, there's a lot more history there. These teams have
Yeah.
played nearly 100 times,
Mhm.
dating all the way back to what is this? 1900? No, 1896. There's a lot more history there.
Yeah.
And that to me seems like it would be a much more of a natural fit for Penn State. On the Notre Dame side, Notre Dame's in a weird conversation when it comes to rivalries because they've got the national schedule, because they're independent.
Right.
Obviously, if they were ever to join the Big Ten, there are plenty of geographic rivals. If they would decide to go, to the ACC, there are plenty of teams like Florida State, let's say, that
Sure.
clearly there's history there as well. So, they don't fit neatly into any of these conversations when we start talking about rivalries.
All right, fair enough. I'm just talking about what I'd like to see. Sally, here's a very odd question. I know Georgia is reportedly extending Kirby Smart and giving him a raise, obviously well earned. What would it take for Kirby Smart to get fired? This is somewhat a question about what the expectations are for Georgia moving forward and how much leniency Smart will have. But I'll remind everyone that another coach who, quote, exemplified the culture of his school was recently fired from LSU just 2 years after a championship. Now, to me, apples and oranges a bit, because some of that was reportedly off-field interpersonal issues with Ed Orgeron and some others. Also, Kirby Smart was a coach who was pursued by a number of schools for a good amount of time, whereas LSU deeply wanted Tom Herman, and he didn't want to go to LSU. He wanted to go to Texas,
Right.
and
Right.
Ed Orgeron was there. He wanted it, and I think it was Joe Oliva, the AD. It was a roll of the dice, and it worked out, and they won a national championship, and everything seemed to be going well The problem is I don't think Ed Orgeron had the type of leash, even that a national championship, because we know, going back to Gene Chizik and Auburn, we know that there has to be a certain degree of confidence about trajectory, whether it's recruiting, whether it's on field, whether it's assistant hires. And the Ed Orgeron thing was a complete no confidence by an AD who didn't hire him in the trajectory of LSU and how Ed Orgeron reportedly was no longer that sort of cultural fit at LSU based on assistant hires, based on quarterback situations, recruiting was always strong. For Georgia, Ty, what would it take, knowing that this is a very different situation, at least from afar publicly, with Kirby Smart and how he's sort of gradually or quickly in some ways built up that program into being a perennial national contender? What would it take?
Well, to be fair, Dan,
Yeah.
Mark Richt was at Georgia for 15 seasons?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. I mean, it took a drought of about a decade with respect to SEC conference championships before they decided finally we've got to go a different direction. So, if
Yeah.
nothing more, now Mark Richt was very successful at Georgia. He won 2 conference championships, the latest of which was 2005, I think.
Sure.
And there were many other Eastern Division championships in there. Georgia perennially was a bowl team,
Yeah, of
and
course.
more often than not won double digits. So they were very productive under
Mhm.
Mark Richt. Um, I think it would take one of a couple things. First off, if there's any kind of off-field stuff that, the calculation goes out the window. But
Of course.
if we're strictly talking about on-field productivity, you're 100% right with respect to trajectory. I think there is widely a sense in the Georgia community and the college football world that this thing is just starting to get cranked up at Georgia. And so they're not
Sure.
going to cut bait when they feel like they've got maybe their best days in front of them, right? That would never happen. They'd be stupid to do that. So that's the first thing. That's obviously in a very good spot. What
Yeah.
I think it would take is probably something along the lines of what we saw with Richt, where there are expectations. Clearly, there is talent, but there is some long, drawn out period of time where Georgia either does not win a conference championship or is not in the true sense of the word a contender for the national championship.
The
And it
people
would
are growing restless kind of thing.
people are going restless. I don't
Okay.
know if it spans quite a decade the way that it did for Richt, because there were calls for a while to get rid of Richt, especially like around 2010, whenever it was that
Right.
they finished with a losing record. But I don't know if they give Kirby Smart that long of a leash, but my hunch is
Mhm.
that given the fact that he brought Georgia its first national championship in 4 decades, he's got a fair amount of wiggle room here.
So
So,
here's
what would it take? It would probably take another extended drought of not winning the SEC, not being truly in that national championship hunt.
Yeah, everybody's gonna grow tired. Here's the thing. National championships are a gift and a curse, right? Because you are setting a new bar, you are setting a new expectation. And we talked about this jokingly when we were in New York. We grabbed a drink with my friend Paige. Um, and we have been fortunate enough in certain instances. For me, it's like my brother's a pilot, and sometimes I get buddy passes, and he bumps me up to first, or I get bumped up to first class. Not because I spent the money on a ticket, but because I got bumped up and I sat down and was handed a warm chocolate chip cookie and offered like a mimosa and a warm towel. And once I experienced that, my initial thought was, well, this is who I am now. This is who I am now. Now,
Sure.
obviously, that wasn't to be. I'm very much a coach flyer, but Georgia fans, Georgia money, Georgia administrators win a national championship and say to themselves, well, this is who we are now. So Mark Richt never gave Georgia fans the gift of a national championship, but he also never cursed himself with the expectation of, oh, you're good enough to get to, oh, and now you're good enough to win a national championship. Well, now 9 wins is a catastrophe
Right.
as opposed to 9 wins being not great, but we feel good about next year. So that's the interesting thing to me is now Kirby Smart's in that position. The interesting thing on the other side is how long is Kirby Smart for Georgia?
Well, we
Because
talked about this on our mega Brew A that we did last week, right?
yep,
The question was from, of course, the esteemed verballerhood, how many coaches are poachable or how many
Mhm.
coaches are unpoachable?
Yeah.
I believe was the exact phrasing. I don't see Kirby Smart going to the NFL. I don't see Kirby
No.
Smart going to anywhere other than Georgia. He's from there. He went there. I don't see him leaving.
No, I am not implying that. I'm saying, you know who poaches Kirby Smart? A beach house. Because listen to me, because it has never been more difficult, and I don't feel bad for them. I don't have sympathy for head coaches, but in terms of the portal, in terms of the booster power with NIL, in terms of assistants moving around, in terms of the game, in terms of what schools are throwing at assistants and players and the constant recruiting and re-recruiting, I don't think it's unreasonable to say there's a Nick Saban. And there are other people who say, and we just saw this, what, Matt Luke? Matt Luke retired. He's like, I just want to watch my kids play Little League. I made a bunch of money being bought out by Ole Miss. Kirby Smart has won a national championship as a head coach, obviously a few as a coordinator, and will make a ton of money.
Wow.
And I'm not saying it happens next year. I'm saying to equate Kirby Smart's career trajectory to Nick Saban because, and I'm not saying you did this, but I don't know, if you're 58 and have $72 million in the bank, how old is Kirby Smart?
Kirby Smart is 46 years old.
He's 46. So if he coaches another 6 years and has dozens of millions of dollars in the bank, maybe wins another national championship. I don't think Kirby Smart's a stupid dude, but I think Kirby Smart could be a dude who burns out because to compete in the SEC with national championship expectations, it just never surprises me when somebody, a pro sports coach, a pro sports player, a head coach in college says, I'm brushing my hands if you're listening to this. You know what?
Yeah.
I want to go boogie boarding with my 17-year-old. I'm just Ty. I'm just telling you, I don't
He
think Kirby
doesn't. He
Smart's gonna be
doesn't
coaching.
strike me as a go boogie boarding with this 17-year-old type of dude.
Oh,
He
have you
strike.
not
He.
seen the video of him racing his 17-year-old on the
I.
beach?
I.
He can
But not
move.
leaving coaching for that.
I'm just telling
He
you.
seems a lot like from that Saban mold.
If you gave me plus money, Kirby Smart's going to be coaching when he's 66 years old for another 20 years. Saban's 70, right?
Yeah.
I would confidently wager a ton of money that he's retired before he's 65.
I mean, do we want to place a long-term wager on this right now? Because
Oh my God.
I
Ty.
think, barring any kind of catastrophe, I don't know if we'll be doing a podcast in 20 years, but we'll probably still be friendly.
So we're talking 2041.
Yeah.
So in 2041, you will be in your 7th decade of life.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You will be 60 plus.
You'll be putting kids through college.
Yeah. You will be a gust of wind away from Social Security. Holy hell, Ty. I would feel
All right,
bad
forget
taking
this. Forget I
money
said
from
this.
somebody as old as you.
Forget this. Forget this.
You need your money for your pills and your hard candies at that point.
Forget this. Forget
Okay.
this. I do like Werther's Originals, but
Yeah.
forget I brought that up.
What do
We
I
can
like?
talk about that later.
What Werther's are not covered in? What are the ones? Reasons. Reasons are pretty good. I used to have some of those when I'd go back east to see my older.
All right, we need another question.
Do we though?
Yeah, we do. We really do. Next question.
Okay, I like this question here. We have one. Redder. Life has been crazy for me lately. Got a toddler and an infant. Yeah, man. That's you're in the thick of it. In the process of selling and buying a new house. Yeah, man. You're in the thick of it. All while working full time. Yes, you are.
By the way,
Certainly.
Redder, one of our board members. Esteemed board
that's right.
members.
That's right.
Yeah.
Esteemed, of
How
course.
dare you forget? Yeah.
Feel like I'm completely out of the loop on everything college football wise. All I know is Backyard Brawl is happening again. What are the main bullet points that will get back in the swing of things and ready for the season? So Ty,
yeah,
what is novel about this coming year? That if there are 4 things, if there are 6.5 things, what should you file away from a national perspective of like, okay, Here's what's interesting and new about the 2022 season.
Well, I think we start with Lincoln Riley broke Oklahoma, the Big
Yep.
12, and maybe all of college football. We can just
Yeah,
blame it all on what if we just kind of paint him as the boogeyman
Mhm.
and just blame Lincoln Riley for all that ails college football, I think most people will be okay with that,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I would love to poll our Patreon for Ballerhood. I think about 80% would be like, cool, let's blame Lincoln Riley for everything. So I start there, Redder. I start with clearly what's going on at USC and how Lincoln Riley has taken a bunch of his players with him. He has seemingly injected a bunch of excitement into that USC program in a span of like 3 months. So we'll
Sure.
start there. That's the first thing I think is definitely top billing. Second thing I would add, there's a lot of coaching turnover, right? Just
Yeah,
kind of
it's the novelty of a number of major programs
yeah.
and new coaches and systems. Yeah.
It's LSU, it's Notre Dame, it's Oregon. Like we could go right down the line. But TCU is a pretty big program.
Mhm.
Like I think all of these programs having new coaches is a big deal, and so
Yeah.
there's a novelty factor with respect to that. Um, Beyond that, I would say in terms of where things are headed, um, there's a novelty for me, and maybe I'm just kind of a hopeless romantic with Texas, but there is a novelty for me with Quinn Ewers now getting the reins because that was a big story like 2 years ago. Quinn Ewers, he's
Sure.
got the haircut. He's going to sign with Ohio State. He's going to go early. Didn't play. We kind of saw the writing on the wall. We knew he was going to end up elsewhere. It just seemed like a foregone conclusion the second he signed on that line with Ohio State. But
Mhm.
now we're actually going to get to see him, and he is a Texas kid, and there's a lot of hype surrounding that move. Presumably, he'll be the starter over Hudson Card. So,
Well,
I
here's the thing, by the way, I think you're right. I think it's a reasonable presumption to make with Quinn Ewers. He is the age of a true freshman,
correct,
right? Because he
correct.
enrolled early at Ohio State. Hudson Card has played and struggled and succeeded on some level in college football games and is older, and it's probably there's probably more aptitude there for learning and applying a playbook. The physical talent probably lies with Quinn Ewers, even though Hudson Card came in with a good amount of hype around his own talents. Um, I don't know if I'm assuming it's 100%. I don't have intel on that. Just true freshman age. That's all.
Yep. So, but there's a novelty there, right? If we're
Yeah,
talking about novelty and kind of the top line things, Redder, I think the Quinn Ewers thing is something that you'll hear a lot about. So, if you're devoting any time to studying and reading, I think that's an interesting thing to know a thing or two about to keep you informed at the water cooler. Lincoln Riley, new coaches elsewhere, the Quinn Ewers thing. I feel like we need to give him 1 or 2 more points, Dan.
sure. Um, I would say the Mountain West is especially entertaining. No? Oh my God,
You're
tie.
telling hold on, hold on. This dude has 2 small kids. He's selling his house.
Okay, fine. You want me to go
Constantly,
bigger?
you're giving him Mountain West? No
Yeah. Oh
disrespect
my
to the
God.
Mountain West. I
This
love the
full
Mountain West.
disrespect to the Mountain
No
West.
disrespect. But you're not going to the water cooler like, "Hey, guys, do you see what's going on in the Mountain West?"
There are no more water coolers. Everybody's drinking
True.
from Yetis. Um,
True.
okay, if you want me to go bigger than the Mountain
Bigger
West,
picture. Come on.
I would say SEC East is especially interesting. Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. Like the West is going to get the attention because of the big name coaches, but the number of narratives with Kentucky steadily, you know, being at the very least a difficult out, and at most, I mean, they've hired really well. They have potentially a first round quarterback. Like there are storylines galore in the SEC East, and I think the ACC will also have an interesting quarterback year. And I
Yeah,
think
okay.
that's worth monitoring because of, okay, DJU bounce back, Keaton Slovis, like there are a number of Devin Leary, whoever wins the job at North Carolina, Jordan Travis potentially breaking through, Tyler Van Dyke. Like there is high potential for a good amount of entertainment in the ACC, both coupled, and we talked about this on one of our shows, because of the depth at quarterback and also just the lack of good secondaries in the ACC.
There's one thing that we sort of buried here.
Please.
It was beef week.
Yeah.
The Nick Saban comments.
Sure, of
And the
course.
response, I'm not gonna so much call out the Saban Jimbo beef.
Mhm.
But I do think the Saban comments, what he said with respect to the game, where it's at, NIL, the transfer portal, blah, 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 collectives, what have you. I do think those comments are going to be played back over and over and over again throughout the course of the season.
Yep.
And I think what we will find is that other coaches around college football, be it in their post-game press conferences, in the preseason, in the build-up to the 2022 regular season, it is not the last that you've heard of the Saban comments. Other coaches will be asked time and again to react to what Nick Saban had to say. And so, like, this kind of fringes on, like, fantasy things territory for us,
Mhm.
because it is one of those things that I think will be overplayed, and we're gonna hear about this for at least the next year or so.
Sure.
But I do think familiarize yourself with what Saban said, and Redder, the esteemed Redder, please do form your own opinions around what he had to say and whether you're in team Saban or team Jimbo in a sense, even though they're kind of on the same team here, which is weird, but right?
Yeah.
But just familiarize yourself with those comments from Saban, because I think as off-season stories go, that's about as big as it gets in our little world here.
Agree. Agree.
All right, next question.
Also, I skipped Mizzou. Mizzou's in the East. They're coming up. Interesting. We'll see. Um, all right, next question. And good luck with the toddler and infant and
Yeah,
selling and
man.
buying a new house. That's tricky.
A lot.
Next question. We'll do one more college football question. Blessed Alpha. He's got two good football
How
questions.
did you make that sound?
How did I make what sound?
Alpha.
I recorded my voice saying alpha, and then I used
Pitch shift?
I pitch shifted in
Yeah.
Audition, but I have a very specific, like a plugin. I think it's Auburn Sounds, and there's some other word. I can send it to you if you're interested, because I like this is gonna sound disgusting when I say it, but, like, I like a good wet mix, and so there's sort of like the audio kind of drips, if you can, like, there's
I
different pitches within that, so you understand a wet mix.
there's a wet yeah. No, I do.
Yeah, and there's the good amount of moisture to that plugin,
There's
so,
a fair amount of moisture there. Okay. Anyway,
yeah.
continue. I'm sorry.
Because it's always funny to me, by the way, the pitch shift whenever it's we talk to this anonymous eyewitness and black them out on the news, you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Uh, and usually it's just like, "Yep, I saw him entering the building," but sometimes they do the really wet mix where it sounds like, "Oh, this evil alien happened to spot somebody committing a crime." It's like, "Oh, that's a choice by the audio engineer at, KCAL9. Great,
Yeah.
cool."
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, next question,
Next
Bless
question.
Lua.
Yep.
Could this be a year where running backs return to stardom? There seems to be a lot of great possibilities. And he mentions, or she mentions, I don't know. The Blessed Lewis is blessed. I don't know anything about this person. Jameer Gibbs at Alabama, Braylon Allen at Wisconsin, Mo Ibrahim at Minnesota, Sean Tucker, Syracuse, Ulysses Bentley at Ole Miss, Tank Bigsby, Bijan Robinson, like he mentioned Rasheen Ali, like he's going on and on, and he or she or whoever. Jarek Broussard, Michigan State, the transfer. Trey Henderson, your guy at Ohio
Oh
State.
boy, love me some Trey.
So I don't want to position this Heisman wise,
Mm.
but I want to say, could we re-enter into an era in which the running backs are the true stars, harkening back to, and I'm going to mention both NFL and college football, like a Barry Sanders and Eddie George, where these guys were just everything. Bo Jackson, like it didn't matter who Jay Schrader was because friggin' Bo Jackson was in the backfield, and
Yeah,
these were looked at as the superheroes, and they're not anymore in that same way. Do you think it is because of a broader understanding of so many positions and their value, or do you just think it's because it's been devalued in the NFL and that trickles down with the draft?
I
Like,
do. I do. Yeah.
what do we need to have a superstar running back in 2022?
Well, I mean, are we talking about at the NFL level, or are we talking about the
Nope.
college level?
College
Because
football, that we have somebody who, like what Reggie Bush was in 2004 or 5 kind of
sure,
thing.
sure.
What would it take?
Well, I mean, the couple layers to this. First off, the NFL running back situation, the way that running backs are drafted into the league, has totally devalued the running back position, or at least the perception of the running back position.
Yeah.
It is a position at the next level that tends to burn out very quickly. I forget what the average age of retirement is for running backs, or when they eventually stop being starting running backs or getting carries, but it's a relatively short shelf life. So
Mhm.
I do understand not wanting to invest a ton of money on that level for a guy who's going to burn out very quickly. I get it. To some extent, I think that's trickled down into college football, but not nearly to the same extent as it does the pro level, because you can still have a guy at the running back position who can take over the football game.
Right.
And there are a lot of great names here. I don't know if I'm quite putting Jarek Broussard in that conversation,
Well, we'll see.
but I do think there's a ton of potential if you've got enough support around a guy like a Bijan Robinson to potentially step in and become that superstar. Trey Henderson, I love Trey Henderson. I love him.
Mhm.
Ohio State has a stable of running backs that could
Yep.
also rise to that level, but I think the point for him, specifically Henderson, is that he's got enough beef around him on the offensive line as well as
Sure.
enough of a cavalry out wide that can help him kind of, give him the support that he needs to step into some of that superstar, some of those superstar roles.
Yeah.
So I'm very pro Trey Henderson, very pro Bijan Robinson. In terms of becoming like the superstar, like the Reggie
Household
Bush
name.
type,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, Reggie Bush was unique in that he returned kicks, you could split him out wide,
Yeah.
you could give him the ball, and pretty much every time you did, there was that home run threat.
Yep.
That's what set him apart. Are any of those guys on college rosters this year? Maybe Trey Henderson. I don't know if he's returning kicks, but I do think he's got that big play ability. Maybe Bijan Robinson, maybe Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get a lot of steam. Um, I don't know if there is that superstar level hype though for any of these guys, and
I
that's where
think
it
it's
falls short.
I think it's multi-pronged. I think the multi-prong of it is it's very difficult to break through, especially when we're dealing with backs by committee more and more.
Yeah,
That the offenses are not built around a workhorse running back. And so you're just not going to hear a name 30 times a game. So and so for 6, so and so for 11, so and so for 4. And that makes it more difficult. The repetition of seeing a guy carry an offense is difficult. 2, defenses are just better. It's just
yeah,
harder to shine as a running back. Defensive coordinators are savvier, defenses are better. Middle linebackers seem like they're 1,000 times faster and more fierce than they were when
well,
running backs
linebackers
were
are bigger running
superstars.
backs at this point. Yeah,
Yeah. And so it's just more difficult to play the position. I think you need to have a couple of things going for you. I think you need to have a signature game and a huge moment. I think if you're Trey Henderson, if you're Bijan Robinson needs to rush for 245 against Alabama and probably, catch 63 yards worth of passes and have a moment where he hurdles somebody like Saquon Barkley did. It takes specific, especially in 2022, TikTokable, Instagrammable,
at
tweetable
you.
moments, right?
Yep.
That it's so much easier for quarterbacks. And the other thing that quarterbacks have as an advantage is there's not that many great ones anymore. It's more difficult than ever to play and shine as a quarterback. So the ones who do are put up on an especially high pedestal.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of teams have good running backs. Maybe not great running backs, maybe not uh like season defining talent running backs. Like Bryce Love was awesome. Do you ever think about Bryce Love?
No, no, no,
And
I
he
don't.
was he was going for 200 a game and busting out 83-yard runs. But he was doing it within the conceit of the Stanford offense. He was following the right blocker, he was hitting the right lane, and he had jet speed. He was great, but he wasn't catching balls out of the backfield. He wasn't returning kicks in the way that Reggie Bush was, and he wasn't himself a personality. I think it's
Yeah,
just I think it's
that's the thing.
there has been a de-emphasis on traditional running back play, but I think using a running back creatively is more important than ever.
Well, it is, and to the point of Reggie Bush was in his heyday in what, 2005?
Mhm.
Go back and watch that game. I've done it. It is a completely different era of
Totally.
football, completely different era, and I'm talking about the best teams of that era still by today's standards are far more unathletic than you might expect.
Yeah.
It's like going back and watching an old movie. it really doesn't hold up in the same way. It
Mhm.
just doesn't. It's a different era of football. So Reggie Bush was kind of like a time traveler because you'd watch him get the football, and
Mhm.
every moment that he did, he was electric. You could tell he was different. Now, he didn't work out at the NFL level, but whatever. We're
Wait,
talking about
Reggie
college.
Bush didn't work out at the NFL level?
He didn't work out to the same degree that he
Well,
did at the
that's an
college level.
impossible bar, but he was a successful NFL running back for a number of years, was he
He
not?
he
How
was
many years did he
okay.
play in the NFL? Did he play
Uh,
till he was 30?
he played for a while. He probably played
Yeah,
till he was 30.
I think he's a
But
success story. Not a
Ret
superstar, but a success story.
right. Reggie Bush did not end up being worth all of the ink that was spilled about taking Mario Williams first. Okay, because Mario
Sure.
Williams ended up being a better pick in the long run. But we can argue that
Yeah,
on
I don't
another
have any
episode.
thoughts, but yeah.
My only point is just that at the college level, Reggie Bush looked like he was from a different planet, different generation.
Mhm.
His athleticism was unrivaled. Now everybody's that athletic, right? You
Well,
brought that up.
no.
Defenses are just better.
I think Reggie Bush would thrive in 2022.
Probably.
I think those around
He was playing 2022 era football back in
exactly,
2005.
he was ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I when I would see a play breakdown at USC, like, well, Matt Leinert's gonna scramble. I remember having the same feeling as watching somebody older run a 5K, where it's just like, I just hope they don't get hurt and they don't trip over their own feet and break a hip.
Yeah.
That was the Matt Leinart athleticism, who was a sensational quarterback, but not athletic.
Good
Um,
broadcaster. I like Weiner.
I think I'm mixed,
Okay.
to be
Where's the
honest.
question from Dan Klobuchar about college football media members?
Oh, you wanna get into that? I'm about to
I
see
do.
some of them.
Yeah.
See, I think he mentioned, yeah, our mainstream college football media members, not you guys. Are we not mainstream or are we not about what he's going to say? Miserable 7 months of the year. Any news item causes a craze amongst writers. No one has any idea of any alternates to watching football aside from raking leaves and picking apples. First of all, I love picking apples. I love
Yeah.
apples straight up. I love apple treats, a crumble, a crisp, a pie. I'm in.
Yeah.
Um, No media members can even stay off Twitter while on vacation, and as soon as any game times get announced in May, it's, "Man, I can't wait for summer to be over."
Yep.
Do you sense misery? You're not around a number of them. You communicate with them sometimes.
Sure.
Is there a one note element to their personalities that comes across to you as having blinders on as humans unnecessarily?
There's definitely a cynicism.
Sure.
Definitely a tangible cynicism that you feel
Mhm.
around some folks who have been in the media business for a long time. And you probably know who I'm referring to.
Of
Uh,
course.
but there are plenty of folks in this media landscape that you can't avoid the cynicism. And so I think some of that probably creeps into the, oh boy, I can't wait for summer to be over. Um, I think the longer some folks have worked the beat, the more one track they've become. Or in some cases, it's gone the other way, Dan, where they're just like, they kind of hate the sport that they cover. So it sort of goes, it's like a fork in the road where it's either you
Right.
become one track or you sort of like quietly become like a hater for the sport that is paying the bills for you. That's what I've seen.
Right.
I do think also among some of the newer media types, and I would definitely not count you and I in this class, but so much of the college football world is played out on Twitter. And there is kind of this like burning desire to get noticed or burning desire to be part of that online conversation whereby you have people tweeting and commenting and being way more active on social media than they need to.
Right.
And so I think that plays into it. These are folks who have not been um, jaded by the sport at this point, and they very much want to be part and active in that online conversation, but it's
Mhm.
a little much. It's a little much. We're not there yet. You and I are still trying to figure out how to post our shows to social media on a regular basis and
That's
get
true.
help to do that from
Yeah.
from talented folks around us.
Yeah.
Um, to say that they're miserable, I don't think they're miserable. I just think the corner of the universe that tends to get some college football media folks' attention is just posting a lot to Twitter and getting their opinion out there. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's miserable. I just think it's kind of the behavior that we've come to, reward, if
One,
any of
I
that makes sense.
I would say that people who use social media with the abundance of some, and it's across all sports and news, whatever, I think that just breeds misery. I just think being online, being especially online as an adjective is not good for your brain. And so I don't think they are bad people. I think there is a certain amount of addiction to social media and to being trying to pop on social media. Now, to the specific of Dan's question, college football stinks as a sport to cover
It does.
because
It's hard.
it's such a tiny window. College basketball is longer, everybody likes March Madness. You know, the NBA, Major League Baseball, hockey, these are all long seasons where you don't have to pretend to be excited about something that's happening 3 months from now. Not pretend, but project excitement. Now, the other bit of it is college football, for an overwhelming number of fans, is a tremendous escape from an otherwise uneven life, which we all lead. We all have ups and downs, and college football is a bright spot for a lot of people. So I think when somebody tweets out or messages or writes in a column how excited they are and can't wait for summer to be over for whatever, Texas, Alabama, or whoever playing whoever, I think it's to get people excited about the sport because enthusiasm about college football is good for the bottom line of everybody covering the sport. So if you are projecting enthusiasm about the sport, then you come across as somebody who is on the same page as readers or potential readers or listeners or viewers or whatever. You don't want to come across as go get a life this summer. College football will be there in August or September. That's not fun for people. Like you want people to be engaged with the sport which you cover, which again, an incredibly short season. I think more college football media members lead more interesting lives than they will let on, or they just their parents, their relatives, their friends, they travel. I think there are interesting people, but also I think there is a fear because of where the media industry is that if you are not constantly pumping out content, if you are
Yeah.
not seen as like a machine, and I'll be very clear right now, Bill Connolly has a life and nobody is as prolific as Bill Connolly, and he has a full-on, well-rounded life. So if he does, everybody can. But there is that fear that you're going to be replaced by somebody younger and cheaper. And so by being this kind of machine who is churning out columns and is on Twitter reacting to things and breaking a news story on Twitter in April or June or something like that, that I can understand why that media member would think that they are positioning themselves as irreplaceable. That
Yeah.
we will never be able we're paying a premium for this person, but we won't be able to replace this person with anybody that can come close to their value. And so there's that certain amount of paranoia that comes with the churn of media work, which
Well,
sucks.
it
It
does
sucks.
suck. Yeah, it does suck.
All right, you wanna get into some on that note,
Yeah, on that
Dan asked another non-football question. How's the strength training going? Have you picked a program? Is it
Oh,
5 by
man.
5, the Wendler 5-3-1, German volume training, which I think is like a 10 rep system? Are you focused more on ollie lifts or power lifting? Do you even lift, bro? The verballerhood must know.
I
Kai.
started doing body weight stuff.
Okay, tell
I
me
started
tell me that's a good start.
No, there's nothing to tell. I started doing body weight stuff.
So
That's
push-ups? What are we doing? Leg
push-ups,
lifts?
sit-ups. Yeah, stuff that you can do with just body weight.
Mhm.
I'm trying to ease my way back into this. I don't have like a weight bench type situation downstairs. I don't really have a burning desire to go to a gym. I do have the Peloton, which I've been doing, and I do think has made my golf swing a little bit more powerful because, it all starts from a good solid base.
That's true.
So I've been out driving a friend of mine. I've only gone twice, but I've
Yeah.
been out driving a friend of mine who's usually about 10 yards longer than me off the tee. So I feel good
Mhm.
about that, and I attribute that to uh, stronger legs. And so I've tried to build on that momentum and do some of the body weight stuff until I can figure out what else I want to do.
Right.
But I'm still very much in the phase, and this is God's honest truth, Dan. I'm still in the phase now of doing the body weight workouts where the simple stuff makes me really sore, which
Good,
means A, I'm really out of shape,
but you're
and
working up.
B, really weak, but C, committed to the bit here and
Have
trying
you
to.
noticed a change since you started doing push-ups and whatever, sit-ups and leg lifts or whatever? Have you noticed a change in, like, metabolism?
No.
Because
No.
supposedly
I'm not doing enough for that. No.
I'm saying
Not at this
anything
point.
will give you a boost. I need to lift more heavy weights. I do some basic resistance band stuff, but that's more for flexibility and stretching for tennis. I have a push-up app, Ty. I don't know if you've ever seen a push-up
An
app.
app?
It's an app for push-ups. I can tell you what it's called, like
You, like,
Pushies.
put it on your back and it kinda measures with the accelerometer or what?
Even even better than that,
A
Ty.
camera? A camera that
Not quite. It's called Pushes. Right here, Pushes.
pushes.
Um, you turn it on and it has you do like 3 sets. So it'll be have okay, do 5 and then do 3 and then do another 5. And it has it attaches to your front camera and it will count the push-ups for you. You put it under your nose and a push-up doesn't count until your nose or chin hits your phone. It has a sensor. So you have to do proper push-ups. I mean, obviously it's not seeing your back and your elbows and everything, but you have to go down far enough to tap it with your nose or your
Is it
chin or
one of the
something.
is it one of those deals where they're gonna make me pay?
Nope, it's a totally free app.
Okay.
I need to do
That's a
more heavy
plus.
lifting. I'm always in search of metabolism boosts. I intermittently fast and I work out a good deal, but it's almost all cardio, which is very good. And I'm happy with how I sleep and whatever, how my body operates. But I need to add that. And whether it's, kettlebell work, whether it's doing some squats and getting a squat bar or something like that, I need to. I will soon have a little more room when we move, hopefully near the end of summer. That's the intended goal. Um, but I don't know if I'll go full squat rack, but I wouldn't hate building up a little more strength with heavy lifting. And I do know a little bit about the German. I looked that up a little while ago, independently of this question. I love that there are so many different schools of thought
Mm.
around this. So, all right, that's where we are. Still in early embryonic stages of
Yeah,
getting swole and yoked.
I'm glad he asked this question.
Yeah.
I know. I gotta get off my butt here and make it happen. So, all right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for providing that motivation on this Friday before Memorial Day.
Are you ready
Yep.
for
Let's
the
go.
next one? Okay. Ba 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 ba
Mm.
ba. Oh, whoops! I got skipped past the Fresno Shay. We sort of did a whole episode directed to this, but we can refresh a little bit. What was your first experience with the internet? What did you use it
Oh,
for? What was the most mind-blowing thing to you at the time? Got about 5 more minutes here.
yeah. I mean AOL.
Of
AOL
course.
was the first thing.
Mhm.
Mama H brought a computer home from school. She's a school teacher.
Mhm.
And it was one of those deals where I think they had gotten new technology and they were throwing out the old Apple LG 2s.
Of course.
And that was my first computer. And it became a series of, at first, uh, um, Prodigy, I guess, I still remember my old username
Mhm.
and going on Prodigy message boards, things like that. And then it became a series of rotating 40 free hour CDs from AOL.
Mhm.
And AOL very much crafted my early opinion of the internet, my
Of
early
course.
experience on the internet.
Welcome.
Yeah, exactly. So the buddy lists and AIM and all that stuff, I mean, that stuck with us through college, right? And not with us anymore, but definitely that kind of genre of internet was chat rooms. Remember chat rooms? Oh my god.
Of course.
All that stuff was
You were
kind of
telling
our
me you were a big ASL guy
no, 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 no. Yeah,
because you
that was
immediately knew what that acronym
yeah, no, no.
Yeah.
But no, that I mean, very much a child of the early internet as it relates to Prodigy and AOL and those
Mhm.
types of things. Yeah.
Yeah, it was all AOL. It was all having your mind blown about being able to check scores and, live sports stuff. That was definitely huge for me. The chat rooms were big. Learning about like wares or wares. What I don't know what people call that.
I
I think
used
it
to
was
go Juarez, but apparently it was
Juarez,
Wares.
Warez, where you could
Yeah.
download pirated, software and movies and all that stuff. Games. That to me early on I discovered that existed. I remember specifically the person who emailed me. This is how long ago it was. NetAce725, I believe, was my email address at AOL.com. And it's like, oh, it could be tennis or it could be the internet. Who's to say? Um, emailed me a picture of a woman not wearing clothes.
Oh, wow.
A model. This was not like a random person. It was clearly from some magazine or something. And I said to myself, "Self, you are 12 years old, you are 13 years old, and this internet thing changes everything." I remember things like that. But yeah, same with you. You know, all the buddy lists and the thing. It was brought up to me the other day because somebody was talking about going to like an internet cafe on vacation to check stuff. I remember going to tennis camp, sleepaway tennis camp. Big dork here. Um, and rushing after was on the Stanford campus. Anybody goes. It wasn't like a Stanford invite, preppy, whatever. It was just a camp. Um, and I remember rushing to the bookstore after playing tennis all day to check and update my ESPN, not fantasy, but baseball challenge,
Yeah,
where it was a
yeah, yeah.
salary cap game. We're talking 97, 98-ish. But I said to myself, the girls can wait. Bernie Williams' day needs attention right now. And so that was it. Go down to the basement of the Stanford bookstore because they were selling computers that were connected to the internet. And I used those to check my baseball challenge squad.
Wow. Wow.
I was like, oh man, I got Manny Ramirez at 8.2 million. What a deal.
I was blown away by the whole Napster thing. That
Oh my God, of course.
and I'm not even a big music buff, but just the fact that that existed,
Hmm.
I felt like, "Oh boy, we're gonna see more of this." And we didn't even know what we were dealing with at that point in time, but yeah. All right.
That's something else. All right, here we go. We're gonna rapid fire these, and I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Best soundbar for a crappy TV. I got a deal on a Vizio, and it's just a bar, and it's a 2.1. It has a subwoofer. It's been great for me, and it was 150 bucks, not expensive. If you're not gonna spend a bunch of money, get a big long sound bar, get it used if it's in good condition, and a subwoofer. Vizio one has worked out.
Subwoofer.
Woofer.
A
I'll own it.
subwoofer. Okay.
Woofer.
Next.
Uh,
Next.
when was the last time you played catch? If we're not counting with my 3-year-old, which wasn't real catch, I played with Jody's cousin Carter. That's difficult to say. Jody's cousin Carter. He's like 13, 14, threw the football around, and it was great. When was the last time you played catch?
Probably about 6 months ago.
Okay.
Yep.
What was the first movie that made you cry?
That made me cry?
Yeah. In a non like little kid scared, but like this has touched me emotionally.
Oh my gosh. I'm still processing here. I haven't had enough caffeine this morning. Do you have one that jumps out to you?
I don't know if it was my first, but it was very early. Rain Man. I was a
Oh,
movie dork growing up, subscriber to both Entertainment Weekly and Premiere Magazine. The Oscars were my night. Rain Man. So I wanted to watch all of the Oscar winning and like award winning movies that had come out before I was around. And then with the advent of VHS and Blockbuster and DVD, I remember watching Rain Man and thinking, oh man, when they're going
I
their
mean,
own way at the end, getting on the bus. Ugh.
yeah.
Whew.
The earliest I can remember is Rudy, and definitely cried at Rudy.
I
But
remember feeling the warm fuzzies. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure there were ones before that that I would need to go back and think about. But that's the one that comes to mind at first blush here.
Final question from Cole.
Alpha.
Dream fast food meal. Pick one from each category: appetizer, fries slash potato slash starch side, main, and dessert. For instance, Culver's curds, McDonald's fries, Big Mac, and a Blizzard.
I mean, I'm not going to be good at this one because I don't have the fast food experience of many of you who are listening.
Right.
I will go to bat for the waffle fries at Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked
You got to
about
have them
that.
right away. You have
Got-
to have them right away. They get worse by the minute, but yes.
Waffle fries at CFA are I think important.
Okay.
If not there, I mean, McDonald's French fries are still, kind of in a class unto themselves. In terms of burger, sandwich, beverage, other accessories on the fast food scale, I'm probably going to have to lean on you for that because you've just had more life experience in
I
that
don't
world.
I don't think about appetizers as a fast food category. I
Okay.
usually just think about it as in like you get a main thing and a side thing, and occasionally a sweet thing and a drink thing if you're really going for it. I'm very boring, and I generally just drink water or coffee during my day. I'm not much of a soda drinker. I can't. My tum tum doesn't like milkshakes and all that stuff. Um, if I can go regional, which Cole has done with Culver's here, I would do a Tommy's chili cheeseburger. It's not good, but it's
Mm,
perfect. It's
okay.
so great. It's definitely not good, but it's perfect. I would go with Arby's fries, the curly fries. I know you're not a curly
Ah,
fry guy. I know you're
speaking
not.
of making your tum tum upset, that's no
I
bueno for me. I don't know
they
what they
are
put on those things, but
I don't know. They're seasoned, and Chick-fil-A doesn't really season. They have a little bit of salt. That's it. So I don't know.
yeah.
You're a purist. I like a curly fry. I would dip it in either a honey mustard or some kind of special sauce. I'm into that. That pink special sauce, like an In-N-Out spread. Dessert wise, I can't do it anymore again because I'm a tum tum. I love saying that. The Jack in the Box Oreo shake or anybody's Oreo shake, I think is an incredible, incredible dessert. Um, Otherwise, I don't I don't think I have like an appetizer answer. I don't know if there's anything from Taco Bell that goes to that level for me
Oh, man.
or any
Utility beef represent.
utility beef.
Yeah, I don't like this question, Cole. I like Cole. Cole is an
Of
alpha. Can you
course.
please play the alpha again? Thank you.
Alpha.
I don't like the food questions. I have nothing to contribute here. It's
Okay,
like
that's
food
fine.
and music, for the most part, I'm out.
Do you
I'm
have a
the
guilty
dork.
do you have a guilty pleasure? We'll end on a higher note. Now, Brent Price Hog was correct in saying that he felt that I might not like the term guilty pleasure because
Yeah.
you shouldn't be guilty about things unless it's illegal or unless it's doing harm to somebody in some way. Like what you like. It's all good.
It's probably my PS5.
I was gonna say, what is your pleasure that is not seen as being especially intellectual?
Yeah, probably my PS5. Probably playing soccer on the PS5 or eventually college football if that comes out next year. That'll probably replace the soccer. But yeah.
I have a very specific answer that if somebody found out, well, if specific people found out that I was into this, they'd be like, "Really? You really?" And it's not really a current thing, but I think about it fondly. Um, the era of MTV programming from like 98 to 2005. So your Cribs, your Maid, your oh god, what was the
Was
show
that
where they made over the cars?
Pimp My Ride
Hit My
with
Ride,
Exhibit. Yeah.
that era, Robin Big, Fantasy Factory, Laguna
Was
Beach.
that Strange Addiction territory?
I don't know if I watched that. There was the dating show where they'd kick people off. They'd date
Yeah,
3
yeah,
people on
yeah.
Next, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
that era, I think about so fondly, and when I pass nice houses, I'm like, I wonder if that's a crib." And then, of
Yeah.
course, you peel back the curtain, you found out, like, JoJo gave a tour of her uncle's house, and she didn't live there. She said, "I was living in a hotel because I was on the road. I didn't have a house." Kim was 14 years old, and she was just, like, laying out on some couch at her uncle's house on Long Island. But a guilty ple if I ever come across, and sometimes I'll look something up because I'll, like, send you a link from some show, or I'll send other friends a link, and then it'll, like, populate my YouTube algorithm, and then I'll be like, "Well, yeah, of course I'm gonna watch that clip of Pimp My Ride." Um, that era of MTV programming, to me, remains something that I just love.
Mm,
I just think about far too often.
yeah.
It's just ridiculous nature of that time.
Just the old dating shows.
Yeah.
The old dating shows where, I mean, you could watch them late at night, one after the other. They would put them on repeat
Mhm.
on some of those channels. And, what was the one with Aisha Tyler? The third wheel, fifth wheel,
Oh,
eighth
that sounds
wheel.
about right.
I forget
Um,
the name of
do you know what
yeah.
I watched? Did you ever watch Blind Date with Roger
Yeah.
Lodge?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man,
Love that show.
what a dream. Who was like I think he's in the sports radio guy now.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Blind Date was the best. It was the
Aisha
best.
Tyler dating show. Fifth wheel. Yeah. I knew it
Yeah,
was a
there it
wheel.
is.
There was a wheel thing. All right.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. On that note, shout out Roger Lodge, unless he is problematic. Shout out to Isha Tyler, unless she is problematic. We love you, unless we don't. Ty, thanks as always. It's been a wonderful beef week.
Yep,
Possibly our most memorable beef week ever.
definitely.
And
Yeah. I've been so
can't
many.
wait to get into next week's content, whatever that might be.
All right, give me a call later. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, we got a call. We'll talk soon. All right.
All right. See ya.
Adios.